Good morning, students. Today we will study EVS 2, lesson number 10, Baji Prabhu and the memorable battle of Godkind. Before starting with the new lesson, let us recall what we have studied in the previous lesson, that was lesson number 9, Pratapgarh makes history. In the previous lesson, we have studied that Adil Shah was disturbed because of Shivaji's growing success. The Badi Sahiba, in a meeting, asked all the Sardars of Adil Shah that who is willing to march against Shivaji and put an end to his rebellion. No one would dare to accept this challenge except Afzal Khan. Afzal Khan, who was one of the mightiest Sardars at the court of Bijapur, accepted the challenge and went with a big army to bring Shivaji, dead or alive, to Bijapur. On getting Afzal Khan's news, Shivaji shifted his headquarters from Rajgarh to Pratapgarh. Pratapgarh was a strong fort built on a very high hill covered with thick forest that was full of wildlife, and there were deep valleys on both the sides of the fort. Afzal Khan tried many tricks and ideas to bring Shivaji down to the plain, but he failed. Finally, Shivaji killed Afzal Khan and defeated his army through his intelligence. The Khan's son Fazal Khan ran away to Bijapur and told everything to Adil Shah. People were very happy on Shivaji's victory. Now, what will happen next that we will study in the next lesson, that is lesson number 10, Baji Prabhu and the memorable battle of Godkind. So, let us begin. Shivaji conquers Panhala. Adil Shah gets angry. Children, Adil Shah got the news of Afzal Khan's death and the defeat of his army. On hearing this bad news, Adil Shah was very angry and was sad to lose such a powerful Sardar. In the meanwhile, Shivaji captured another fort of Adil Shah, that was the Panhala fort. And he also captured the fort of Vishalgarh, which was 60 kilometers away from the Panhala fort, and then he captured the fort of Vasantgarh also. When Adil Shah got this news, he was extremely angry. He was so restless that he could not even eat or sleep. He sent another strong Sardar with his army against Shivaji. His name was Siddhi Johar. Fazal Khan, the son of Afzal Khan, also went with him to take a revenge of his father's death. This time, Shivaji and his marvel soldiers were in the Panhala fort. The Siege of Panhalgarh. Siege means a situation in which an army surrounds a town or a place for a long time so that nobody can get in or out of that place. Children, Siddhi Johar was a brave Sardar, but at the same time he was ruthless. Ruthless means cruel. He was a strict disciplinarian. Disciplinarian means a person who follows strict discipline. He laid siege to Panhalgarh. That means he and his army surrounded Panhalgarh fort from all the four sides. He did this because Shivaji and his soldiers were inside the Panhala fort. So, Siddhi Johar wanted to catch Shivaji, That is why he was waiting outside with his army, that when Shivaji will come out, he can catch him easily. Shivaji was quietly hiding inside the fort with his army. He knew that he cannot come out of the fort or run from there, because a big army was waiting for him outside to catch him. Shivaji's officer Netaji Palkar attacked the Siddhi's army from outside so that Shivaji could get the chance to run away, but he also failed in his approach. Few months passed like that only. Then the rainy season had arrived, and Shivaji thought that when the rain will come, Siddhi Johar would lift his siege. That means he thought that Siddhi Johar will leave Panhalgarh during the rainy season, and that time he can run away from there. But this time Shivaji was wrong. Instead of lifting the siege, Siddhi Johar added more soldiers and tightened the security. Now it was more difficult to come out of the fort. All the resources in the fort were getting over. There was no food left. Shivaji was worried about his family. He did not get any news about them from a long time. His marvel soldiers were also facing many problems from so many months. This time Shivaji has to take some decision. He knew it was difficult that to convince Siddhi Johar to lift the siege and also to fight a battle against him. Shivaji decided to use his intelligence to deceive Siddhi Johar. Deceive means fool. He sent a message to Siddhi Johar that he is very guilty of capturing the forts and he wants to give the fort back. He wants to return the fort. Siddhi was happy to hear this. He thought that Shivaji got afraid of him and was ready to give back the fort. Siddhi's troop, that means his army, was also very tired of the long siege. On hearing this, they felt little relaxed and got busy in food, drink, and music. That means they started to celebrate. Shivaji escapes from the siege. Children, Shivaji Maharaj came to know about the Siddhi's army, that they got busy in food, drink, and music. So he made a foolproof plan to escape from the siege. 2 palanquins were kept ready. Palanquin means a big covered box-like vehicle, usually with a seat for one person. It is attached to poles and is carried on shoulders by 4 or 6 men, as you can see in this picture. Now the question is, why 2 palanquins were kept ready? Actually, one palanquin was for Shivaji and the other palanquin was for the person who would be disguised as Shivaji, means that person will dress up like Shivaji to look like him to fool the enemies. The first palanquin was to leave by the Raj Dindi, means it will go out from the fort through the main gate. So it can be easily spotted by the enemy forces and it would be captured by them. And when the enemy will celebrate the capture of Shivaji Maharaj, that means the fake Shivaji, the real Shivaji will run away from a different difficult route. This was the plan. But who would thus impersonate Shivaji? That means who will be ready to become the fake Shivaji? Because to become a fake Shivaji means clear death. Who would be so brave to sacrifice his life to save Shivaji Maharaj? This question was going on in everybody's mind. Then a brave young man who was a hairdresser means barber of Shivaji, decided to do it. His name was Shiva Kashid. He was courageous and shrewd. Shrewd means clever. As everything was planned, the palanquin carrying the other Shivaji came out of Rajdindi, the main gate. It was a dark night, means there was no moon, and it was raining heavily. But still some soldiers were keeping watch. They saw the palanquin coming out, and they immediately captured it. They thought that they had captured Shivaji. So they took the palanquin to Siddhi's camp, and then they started to celebrate their victory. In the meanwhile, the real Shivaji Maharaj escaped from the other gate. It was a difficult route. Some of his selected soldiers were also with him. Baji Prabhu Deshpande, a brave Sardar of Shivaji, also went with him. The Bandal Deshmukh army accompanied them. After some time, Siddhi Jauhar came to know that this was not the real Shivaji. That means Shivaji had fooled him. He got very angry. He felt insulted and he was very, very angry. And in his anger, he killed the fake Shivaji. That means he killed Shiv Kashid then and there. This Shivaji, sacrificed his own life for Shivaji Maharaj and Swaraj. Thus, he became immortal. When Siddhi understood that Shivaji had given him the slip, that means Shivaji fooled him and ran away from there, he was very angry. He was wild with anger. He immediately dispatched means sent, his Sardar Siddhi Masood and a big army after Shivaji. Siddhi Masood and his army were searching for Shivaji everywhere. After some time, they caught Shivaji at the Pandarpani stream. Shivaji was now in real trouble. With greatest difficulty, he and his men crossed the Godkind. Godkind is a name of a place. Khind means a narrow path between two mountains. Baji Prabhu the Brave. The angry troops of Siddhi were chasing Shivaji speedily. Shivaji and his soldiers were going fast to reach Vishalgarh. Vishalgarh was another fort that Shivaji had captured from Adil Shah. If Shivaji would reach Vishalgarh on time, he will be safe. But the road to reach Vishalgarh from the Ghodkhind pass was very difficult and steep, and the enemies had already reached very close to them. So Shivaji said to Baji Prabhu that this is a very critical situation. Critical means serious. The road is steep and we don't have that much time. We will not be able to reach Vishalgarh on time. So let us turn back and face the enemy. Let us fight with them. Baji Prabhu understood the seriousness of the situation and the thoughts going on in Shivaji's mind. Shivaji's life was in danger and also Swaraj. He said, Maharaj, you must go to Vishalgarh. You take some soldiers with you and I shall defend this pass. This pass means this road. I will not let the enemy cross it. If needed, I shall sacrifice my life to defend this pass. And if I die, you will get many more people like me. But if anything happens to you, we will not get another Shivaji. Swaraj needs Shivaji. The enemy will attack with a big army, and we don't have that many soldiers to stop them. So please don't wait. Go ahead. We will try our best to stop the enemy. These brave words of Baji and his sense of loyalty brought tears in Shivaji's eyes. He was not willing, that means he was not ready to leave Baji Prabhu alone. But Shivaji thought of Swaraj. He fondly embraced, that means he lovingly hugged Baji Prabhu and said, "We shall move ahead towards Vishalgarh. As soon as we gain the fort, that means as soon as we reach the fort, we will fire 3 rounds of guns. That will be the signal that we have reached safely to Vishalgarh. And as soon as you hear the gun sounds, Baji, leave the pass and follow us to the fort." Baji's defense of the Godkind pass. So Shivaji left for Vishalgarh, leaving Baji Prabhu to defend the pass. Now, Baji Prabhu prepared a plan to face the soldiers, that means the enemy soldiers. He divided his army into small groups and placed them at different positions. He took his sword and stood at the entrance of the pass. The marvels were ready at their positions. They used boulders. Boulders means big rocks and stones as their weapons to throw and injure the enemy soldiers. Everybody was ready. By this time, the enemy had reached, and one could hear the war cries. Baji said to his army, "Be prepared, my brave soldiers. Do not allow enemy to cross this pass. No matter what happens, you may die also, but do not leave your place." They were waiting fearlessly to attack the enemy. At the other end, Shivaji, along with his soldiers, was speeding towards Vishalgarh. The fort was still some distance away. It would take Shivaji at least 2 hours to reach Vishalgarh. If Baji Prabhu could hold out, that means if he is able to stop the enemy for those 2 hours, Shivaji would be safe. The Battle of Ghodkhind. By now, the enemy was at the mouth of the pass. Mawalas attacked the enemy with boulders and stones and killed many of them. The first batch of the attacking enemy soldiers withdrew in confusion. That means they ran away in confusion. They did not understood what was happening. The second batch of the enemy arrived. Baji and his soldiers shouted the Maratha war cry, "Har Har Mahadev," and attacked and fought with the enemy. Baji was constantly motivating his soldiers by saying, "Bravo, my lads! Go ahead, attack and destroy the enemy." And they defeated the second batch also. Bravo, my lad means very good, my boys. Till then, Shivaji almost reached the foothills of Vishalgarh. But there was also some enemy soldiers waiting for him. Shivaji fought with them and tried to reach Vishalgarh as soon as possible. Baji the Brave. Children, Baji Prabhu and the brave Mawalas were trying their best to defeat the army of Siddhi. When Siddhi Masood came to know about the defeat of his first and second batch, he organized the third batch to attack on Baji Prabhu and his soldiers. They surrounded Baji Prabhu from all the sides and attacked him. Baji fought bravely with them. He was wounded very badly. His body was covered with blood, but still Baji was not ready to give up. He requested his Mawal soldiers not to give up and fight till their last breath. Disheartened by the fearful attack, the enemy again withdrew. Withdrew means they moved back. But Baji was fatally wounded. That means he was wounded very badly. He was alive only to hear the gunfire from Vishalgarh. Ghodkhind becomes Pawankhind. And then the sound of gunfire was heard from Vishalgarh. Maharaj has reached Vishalgarh. I have done my duty. Now I can die in peace. These were the last words said by Baji Prabhu, and then he died on the historic battlefield. When Shivaji heard this news, he was greatly grieved. That means he was extremely sad. And he said, Baji Prabhu Deshpande laid down his life. That means he sacrificed his life on the battlefield in the cause of Swaraj. The bundles fought bravely. It was because of brave patriots like Baji Prabhu that Swaraj has won. Their blood made the Godkind a holy place in Swaraj. From then, Godkind became immortal in history as Pawankhind. We salute the brave Baji Prabhu and his brave soldiers. So students, we have finished with this lesson. I hope you all have understood it. Please read this lesson from your textbook. Thank you.